Stuart, season coming to an end this weekend. How are you feeling about it? Happy to see the back of it, or not?
No, I love football. I love doing this job, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it at this football club. So I think there's always a wee bit in you that wants to keep going. I think after a week or so in the house, the missus is normally wanting me back out as well and back involved in football. But I think if you ask any what I would call proper football person, then you get into that routine of just making sure you're preparing for games, that body clock switched on to a 3 o'clock on a Saturday in general. I know the game's changed, but that's what you're used to. So absolutely, I'm going to miss the season. I'm going to miss what comes with that, for a few weeks. But by the very nature of how football goes now, it's a quick turnaround. So what I want to do is finish off this season well with a victory at home and try and entertain the supporters and take us back to kind of where we were, Livingston, Ross County games, and try and right the wrong essentially of what the result was the other night. We've watched over it again, even though there wasn't a great deal in the game up into, to my mind, a really harsh decision, and still in my mind in relation to other things, the wrong decision. There was nothing in the game at that point, so we have to get back on the horse and we have to make sure that we're ready to go. But there's been no hiding from it. There's been highs and lows this season. Of course there has been. I think always the priority is to make sure that you're still in the league. I think we've done that with plenty to spare. But there's no hiding point from the fact that I would love the club to be pushing to a higher position in the league and longer cup run and all those different things, and without question that's what we're going to be working towards over the course of the summer. We have done before now, and we will be over the course of the summer. But I think it's important that the players, myself and the staff, at least get a few days in there just to reset and get ready for what comes next.
Sometimes last game of the season there might not be a lot hanging on it, but does midweek give you that sort of clear drive and motivation to finish the season on a high, coming up against a team who still have something to fight for as well?
Yeah, I think it does, but we had the same motivation through the week, no doubt about it. I think everybody could see that from such a point as we were safe after Livingston. I think you could see how motivated we were against Ross County. I think for large parts you could see how motivated we were against Hibs. It was one of those nights. Essentially, I said after the game I didn't feel we were aggressive enough in anything we'd done. But that said, I didn't feel that there was really anything in the game until such point as the penalty awarded. And I think my greatest frustration was that there should have been a better reaction from us. I feel that we probably should have shown more of what we have done over the course of the season, which has always been a response. And again, I have reviewed the footage, I've reviewed the game. There was points where we played well, there was points where we passed the ball well and got any good opportunities, couple of goals chalked off and all the rest of it. That's not an excuse, but it's just that I expect that wee bit more of a cutting edge, and I don't just mean in front of goal, I mean by how we deal with the opposition when they've got the ball as well.
What would you say your biggest lesson you've maybe learned from your first full season in this job that you can maybe take into the next year?
It's not easy, is the fact, and I've always known that it's not. But the biggest lesson I've learned is possibly one that I've used before. That when it's tough and when you're going through those bad runs, you have to believe in what you're doing, and you have to find a way, not of when you're in the run, but you have to find a way of making sure that there's a good connection at the football club and that everybody sticks together. I think if there's ill feeling, I think if there's lack of transparency and lack of messaging from the manager and the staff, then that all falls down very quickly, and potentially you're not sitting in front of you speaking just now in this position. But I think what it has absolutely shown at this football club is there's a real togetherness, there's a real belief in what we're trying to do. There's been a lot of highs, as I've already said, with some standout results in there, and there's ultimately been lows, but it's not been over emotional when those tough times come. And I'm not sounding defeatist in saying this, but I mean, ultimately at a club like Motherwell, when of course there are financial challenges in relation to other clubs that are in the league, and what you're able to do, and essentially clubs now continually coming to Motherwell and looking to take the better players and the guys that are performing. Sometimes that's been through loan, sometimes that's been with fees, compensation, and all the other stuff. There are massive challenges, but it's just really important that you all stick together. And sometimes what you've got to do is reset to a new audience and to new people that are in front of you, to try and sell your message and to try and get that across and try and get them to execute that. And sometimes that can take a little bit of time as well, but I think what we've done as a football club by sticking together is we've had some standout moments. We're absolutely in the league with a bit to spare, but we've had some real good player development. And I think if you go back to possibly my first interview, my first press conference as the manager, that was something I spoke about being massive for us at this football club, and without question I feel as if we've delivered on that substantially, but I would like that to go yards further than what it is just now, and I'm sure if we keep doing what we're doing then we'll get that. But we want to couple that with success on the pitch, whether that's trying to see if we can squeeze our way into a top six or that cup run that I've just spoke about a few minutes ago as well.
Can you take a bit of satisfaction, you had that, I think it was 15 games without a win, and there was no real pressure really, people not really calling for changes, and to come out of that, to be pushing for the top six up to the last game, up to the last couple of minutes as well, does that represent, evidence of what can be achieved if you do stick together and keep believing as well? Yeah, absolutely. As I say, I don't take that side of it for granted, but what I would again couple it with is everybody needs to be on board, players, staff, board, a new chief executive in now, as you know, with Brian. Everybody has to buy into it, everybody has to buy into what you're doing. I think if it's just sort of riding by the seat of your pants and you're ripping up your team every week and you're changing your tactics and you're not working a specific way, then I understand why people start to ask questions, because there's no evidence that it may well be successful. But I think what we've done through my time, without trying to pat myself in the back in any way, shape or form, because I do want better, I do want it to look like Motherwell potentially in the top six of the division. We can see what's possible. This club's done it several times before. I think what's really important to me is that we can see a sort of way that we want to try and travel, and a sort of vision of how we would like to play, and trying to get those results off the back of it. It can be really difficult in this league, but if that 15 games was really poor for 15 games, there's a lot of draws in there that we speak about, some comebacks, some games that we lost that we actually played really well. I said this the other day, that we got a 4-1 victory against Livingston when they were fighting to try and stay in the league a couple of weeks ago, a 5-1 victory up in Dingwall. I actually think we've played better in certain games over the course of the season and lost them, but that's sometimes for me, and I'm not going to get into too much detail, but sometimes in Scottish football all we do is just look at the number at the end of it, which is the most important part. Without question, it's the most important part, what the score is at the end of the game, but I have to try and look at a bigger picture than that, and I can genuinely tell you there's been games that we've lost this season that I feel we've probably played better than we did in both of those games. What we were was clinical when the chances came our way in both those games, scoring 9 goals, but there's been other games, in my opinion, that the football has been very good to watch, but maybe not just been that wee bit clinical, but it's trying to get the full package together, isn't it? Everything that you do on a daily basis leading up towards that game, and trying to join it all up. And if you can do that on a consistent basis, then you don't go on poor runs and you start to find yourself motoring up a league table. So those are all things that we know, those are all things that we understand. We take our medicine for the bad bits this season, and what I think we have done is always shown a reaction to it. We genuinely have, because it's been hard to emerge into January to this point with a number of points and the wins that we've had, and some of the performances, but we have done that as a group, and I still look back to it that only comes because you don't have people chatting away and having their own agenda in a dressing room or behind closed doors in other offices at the football club. We kind of feel that those
barriers are knocked down, and that we're kind of all able to look at each other by the whites of the eyes, and if something's not right, we say it, but we always have to try and find a way to move forward. Now I know every manager says that, everybody talks about that, that's always that one to keep people happy, but without doubt there's a burning desire in me to try and have a better league finish next season, to continue that player development, and the one that I've already alluded to is can we go on a better cup run, because there is only a couple of ways to improve financial situations at any football club, not just Motherwell, and that is player sales, that is cup runs, that is league positions. That was something that was said to me a long time ago, and when you actually break it down, it's probably a bit accurate.
How quickly do you envisage getting business done? Or do you feel you're already maybe sort of quite far down the road in terms of getting players in for next season, whether that's pre-contracts or anything else?
There's been an awful lot done, some of it further ahead than other aspects. I think you guys will acknowledge that there is so much work to be done in modern football to get one deal done. So I can categorically say that there's been a lot of contact, not just with players that aren't here just now, but with players that are currently here. Whether that's that they move on, whether that's that we're looking to re-sign them. So there's been an awful lot of contact right across the board, but there's a bit of patience required in it. But what I would like to do is I would like to try and have that squad as close as I possibly can. You know, we head off to Holland in pre-season. I would love to have as many of that group together, because again, having them together, spending time together, working on the pitch together, going through the full pre-season. We've got a few guys just now that haven't had pre-seasons for a year or two, and for me that's the very foundation of what you do in a league campaign. That's the one, that's that bedding that really gets you your 38-40 games a season, and it makes you robust enough to do it. So that's the plan. We know it's difficult, because I've said that it's hard to get deals across the line. Of course it is. A lot of players now sit and sort of wait to see if the grass is greener on the other side, not necessarily ones that are here, but players that may not already be here. A wee bit different in my opinion from what football used to be like. I think players were always so hell-bent on just getting their future sorted as quick as they possibly can, so that meets its own challenges, but we're going to be working really, really hard over the next 2-3 weeks to try and see if we can get as many bodies in and get our squad set for next season, because I think that's probably what we have to do to try and gain that yard or two that we might be able to, off the back of not being able to blow clubs out of this division out of the water with financial prowess. So we have to be quite clever in what we try and do.
Are there players who go there Saturday not knowing if it's their last game here for the club, or is it that someone still in that boat?
No, there's been a real clarity in terms of conversations that have been had with myself and players. Now, whether there's agreements in place, etc., but I think everybody knows at this stage kind of where they sit and where they are, whether there's going to be an offer, whether there is an offer, or whether they'll be moving on for the football club. Some players will have decisions to make themselves, of course, for what's right for them and for their family, but no, everybody will know what the willingness is of the football club, and have done for a little bit of time now as well.